We have one more panel discussion, but before that, we have a presentation that's going to be extremely interesting. Please welcome the CIO of CTRLS. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Anil Nama. And as Mr. Nama steps forward, this is my last and final chance to request those of you who have not yet been able to fill up the form to take away the television. You've got to make sure that you get a form from Ace Data, which is just across, just outside this door to the left-hand side. Grab the form, fill it up in all details, open to all delegates. Keep the form with them. In a short while, we'll have a lucky draw. Someone will walk away with a 40-inch television. Sir, Anil Nama. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a last-minute appearance for this. So we have been hearing right from the sessions how the security is. The last panel was speaking more about the problems of handling the security at the granular level. Well, I represent a service provider who has been handling this data for multiple customers. What is it that we do? A short snapshot I'll be presenting to you. Sorry. So, essentially I represent ControlS. ControlS has a capacity of 9,400 racks. We are spread over various locations in India. We service mostly the sectors of BFSI and telecom. We have 50% year-on-year growth since inception. We are promoted by Pioneer Group and a $39 billion OSCHIF capital. Awards, we have many. For example, the Green Award for Energy Innovation, the CIO Choice Awards for Managed Services and Clouds. The data centers are 3. The first one was Hyderabad, second is Mumbai, and the third one is in Delhi. We are now starting to expand across the globe in terms of cloud. And these are few of our client wins. Now these clients have essentially trusted us because of the questions that we had answered to them. We understand security in a totally different perspective. Please understand, security is not only about enforcing something, preventing something. For example, let us take a railway station. Nobody in this world can predict that the railway station there will be no incident or no breach can happen. But you put in sufficient controls so that those breaches or those incidents which happen do not affect those workings. And in fact, if that breach happens, you are able to recover faster. What I am essentially trying to point out is that when you see the zero-day vulnerability so-called talked about, the cross-section, the amount of effect of these zero-day vulnerabilities on IT setups as a total would be very minuscule. Whereas the 90-95% of the attacks would come more from the traditional controls. Yes, is zero-day desired? Of course it is desired. But should it be mandatory? That's the question we need to answer. Because we have not been answering that question is why we still reside in the boundary where security budgets are still taken in a qualitative matter. Not like an IT budget where you have a quantity. 1,000 users, you know how much to spend on the servers, on the storage, on the databases. But 1,000 users, how much to spend on the security? Suddenly we start to talk about data classification, sensitiveness of data, I don't know what not. End of the day, you can never fix your security budget. The way we deal with this in cloud is, or in ControlS is, we deal with the sensitization of the projects. The first project which is put up for you is the mobile payment gateway. There's a question about, do people in India do mobile payments? Yes, of course they do. The solution in this mobile payment gateway is essentially all about creating an environment which has cloud in the center, which has traditional Oracle rack servers in the bottom, which has the HSM modules as well as everything put together in a Cloud Security Alliance compliant methodology. The services which are put in there were not only the traditional services, but they were also services like security incident event management, the network access controls, the vulnerability assessments, the web application firewalls. This is the total service that is required to run a highly secure nature of financial transactions. Is there more that we have done? Now please understand, even though I run that mobile payment gateway in an outsourced model to one of the larger providers in the world, I still don't guarantee the breaches. The guarantees or the SLAs are known as response times. There is a breach, there is a non-conformance, there is a SLA which I respond to. Whereas the system that is put in place is certified for 5,000 concurrent transactions. So there is a positive qualitative benchmark which has been given for the system, whereas the security is still on a response method. Right? Whether it's a SIEM environment, whether it's a web application environment, everything is based on a response time. How have we done this? So we have created 10 different reasons which start from team, automation, and go on all the way back to the total ownership. Few of them that I want to highlight is that security is not something which is something you can put in, come and overlay in an existing network. For example, we have been hearing about data loss prevention. Somebody spoke about information rights management, right? Let us say I've got this particular file, PPT. Can I classify it as top secret now? And will all the operating systems, the Sun Solarises, the AIXs and all of them, will leave the applications? Will the database, will my file servers handle this file as that? So do the operating system have a labeling system in which they can understand high sensitive labels, so that even if a hacker tries to buffer overflow or impersonate someone, still is not able to open the file? The answer is no. The only mainframe systems which are last certified under Orange Book belong to a category which is no longer present here. So asking for a security, asking for sensitive data protection is fine. How did we do this data sensitive protection in the offsite world? If I had a top secret file, I would number it. There would be very less people who would handle it, and I would keep a track of them. Why keep this sort of information onto public network? Is question number one, right? Question number two is, when you create groups to handle your data or your automation, they are all subject matter experts in their respective subjects. Whereas the security awareness says that each of them should be conversant to your sensitive nature, to your organization's groups and policies. It is very difficult to take a subject matter group of people and then to retrain them to inculcate those security habits in between. It is rather easy to take a team which is certified, which is working on it, and extends its own permutation combinations to cover up a system. The second is automation. There are diagnostics. We call them security incident event analysis. We call them log analysis. We call them predictive analysis. We call them all sorts of names. But essentially, whenever something goes wrong or something is reported as an incident, when you come to the operating systems, the databases, the hardwares, you will have fairly elaborate diagnostics which can tell you within a server also whether the RAM has failed or a hard disk has failed. But when you come to the domain of security, suddenly those things start to disappear. It is very difficult to fix a root cause. The sentence by our last panel, which said that yes, government has lost data, but the information agencies find it very difficult to pinpoint that action on an individual. Can any one of you answer us as to why is it so difficult to pinpoint a responsibility on an individual in an IT environment? Any guesses? So let me put it like this. If you see my PC, my name is Anil Nama. What do you think would be the administrator name in this PC? Admin. Now if using this admin, I do something in this PC, you have created an audit trail also of that. Is it not a two-step to fix that name to again my personality? Yeah. So as IT guys, we ourselves create pseudos to our people, point number A. Point number B, then we try to create those audit trails, and then we go on to justify those actions to individuals where the pseudos are not directly mapped to the individuals, which is why the two-factor authentication came in. Right? The second question is, let us say some security incidents had happened, and we are now checking the database files or whatever weblog files, and we found out the incident. How hard is it to map it to finally the individual? In a network, it is next to impossible, especially on internet, where you cross geographical boundaries, where you cross these admin domains. Have any of you experimented with something that Government of India came out with, which is that with every PAN card, by paying 900 rupees, we can all have a security token? There is Encode Solutions in Gujarat and whatnot, lots of government agencies like TCS and all are giving. Now just for that argument's sake, if for my banking transaction I can use a Visa card or a Mastro card, right, where I am paying my own money, hard-earned money, why can't I take the encryption systems, the authorities from there? Suddenly my syslog will refer that Anil Nama has logged in. And when I produce that proof in the court, would it be acceptable? Not acceptable. Even before that, when I know that my PAN card, my government ID is being used to log into this system, will I come and claim to you that I don't know my policies? I mean, if you have applied for a credit card, maybe you have forgotten to pay in time and you had to pay 2% extra. Did you go back to the bank and say, no, I didn't read the rules because of what the credit card was? No. Right? The problem to us is the ID systems that we have taken today are not at all collaborating. They are all standalone systems. Right? Whereas the demand is collaboration. And we do not trust each other. Every one of us thinks our ID systems is our own. I mean, no data should go out of here. Now let me put another example to you. We were hearing that sensitive bank information is not sent out, right? I apply for a loan. The first thing my banker will do is check my which score? CIBIL score. Where do you think that CIBIL guy gets the data to create my score? Did I supply him? No. Did I apply for CIBIL services? Or any of us has applied for CIBIL services? No. Which means my transaction data from the same bank's credit cards, debit cards is somehow going there. Which means there is an official collaboration of the data which a bank in its own was trying to protect is now being officially sent out to a place which is collating not from one bank, from multiple banks, and creating an index which is used against me as an individual, even though as an individual I would have never given an explicit permission. Right? It's an implicit because it would have been written in credit card, debit card, saving bank. But the answer is, when my transaction history is being used and collaborated by the bank or the credit card company itself, will it not contain my details? Will it not contain my total financial history? Yes. Then what for am I protecting this data for? Let us take another example. The example of retail. I am an e-commerce company. You would all have made certain purchases, or even if you have booked the IRCTC ticket, sooner we book the ticket or create the catalog and we say, okay, what happens next? There is a bill desk or a tech process page which comes, which says we are processing you and takes you to your bank. Right? We have all said that our website should be protected, our identities should be protected. I have logged in into the Indian Railways site. Why am I shifted to tech process? That we know we are intelligent, sir. Leave aside the intelligence. Let us say you go into what shop? Any shop. And suddenly you see the shop logo changing when you go more inside. Will you take the goods there? No. Which means that the e-commerce retail guy, every action that he can capture of me can be equally captured by the tech process some other guy. Can be equally captured by the whatever is the end merchant. Any of these three can do away with my records. You recently heard that example where one of the payment gateways company in Chennai took a hit. Right? He was not a bank. He was neither a store. Then how come he did so much damage? The problem, gentlemen, is because we are still looking at IT systems as isolated systems. And the world cloud out there is becoming more and more pervasive because it is a collaboration system. The third most important thing to take back for you. Let us say I run a company. Let it be a bank. Let it be a manufacturing company. What is the most important data to me? What for my company would be known as? For my turnover? For my bottom line? Right? So the most secret data to me would be the next set of clients from whom I am going to get the order from. And the value of that orders, that should be sacrosanct. Welcome to the world of Salesforce. You would have heard in hardware competing IBM, HP and Dell are there in every hardware. Out of these two companies you will find keeping all the data there. Which essentially means the data boundaries that have been created in the traditional sense, the sense and perceptions that we have, that large amounts of data lead to crossing of boundaries and somehow loss of our control, is notional. It is preventing the business collaboration that the business requires. I mean, first thing I would have automated in my company would be sales. The first thing which was outsourced in my data center company was that Salesforce. And I get data from there to fulfill my back-end orders. Right? So this is what happens when you look at full-scale automation and tool implementations. I will not go into details here. I will further talk about the service delivery structure. This was another of our discovery in this journey. When we started to implement cloud, the important thing that we found out was that teams rotate the tickets between themselves. So let us say your website is down or your SAP application is down. You give a call to the CRM guy or the monitoring tool makes a ticket and any one of them picks it up, be it network, OS and all. The first thing that they do is after 15 to 20 minutes say, it's not my problem. This may be an issue with database. Then the database guy spends another 20 minutes on it and says, not my problem, this may be application problem. The first 60 minutes in any enterprise application were going down only because of this. What did cloud help us, or how does the cloud help us? For all those yellow boxes 4, you have something which is known as automated testing script. Which means monitoring system says website or SAP down. There is auto script which runs to say ports are up, lines are up, operating system is okay, it is responding, no CRC error, no RAM error. So all those 4 circles are over in the first 30 to 45 seconds. And when that particular information now goes to Oracle or SAP or whichever guy, suddenly they have to solve the problem there. What is the change that you see on the floor? After 30 minutes, the person will raise his hand and ask help from his fellow guys, telling that, boss, I am not able to solve this, can you help it? In a traditional ticketing architecture, you will see one guy booked out with one problem, spending 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, only trying to resolve that problem. Right? Now to take this shared services and to make that mean time to respond faster to an enterprise setups, you cannot have those type of logins which were there. You have to have some sort of two-factor authentication. You have to have some sort of SMS passcode. Because one guy will be working for 20 minutes, raising his hand, second guy goes in. You cannot create 300, 400 accounts inside, and all of them with admin access. Which means the system of logging in moves away from traditional username password to what is known as OTP or one-time passwords. And you keep a track of them not in the system. You keep the track of them from the incident history. So you map it directly to incident history. If there is a log generated by database saying that somebody has logged in, you wouldn't check the logging guy. You would rather check, has that raised this any incident, and then go from the incident history to create the audit trails. So these are few of the changes which have been brought about by clouds. These are the collaboration engines which have been brought about by all the people. What I mean to say is that yes, we have been working there. I won't go through all the implementations. My God. What I want you to remember is please understand, whenever you work for multiple people, multiple setup, for example, Palo Alto has also come up with a Converge setup. VMware latest cloud has come up everything converged. I don't want extra SANs, I don't want replication softwares. There is a convergence which is happening at the bottom of it. The identity and access management and the way data security is being treated with is preventing those adoption or harnessing that thing for your enterprises. It's time that you relook at those policies. The top guys out there, the Visas, the INGs have all relooked at them and adopted them. It's time that we also look at them and adopt them. That will lead to the change. Thank you.
That was the CIO CTRLS, Mr. Anil Nama. Thank you, sir, for the interesting presentation. May I please request Sector Head, ET Edge, Mr. Rishi Kapoor, to step up on stage and present a memento to you. Thank you for your presence here, sir, once again. Once again, a big round of applause for Mr. Anil Nama. Thank you, sir.